Tansei, I'm Krisanachkite. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime on this Thursday. Yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump backed away from using military force to acquire Greenland. But that doesn't mean he stopped coveting the territory. In Davos, Switzerland, he said a deal has been made to allow permanent U.S. access. APTN video journalist Angel Moore is on the ground in Greenland's capital, in Nuuk. Angel, we understand that you attended a press conference earlier today. Can you tell us what happened there?
Well, the Prime Minister of Greenland spoke, and he said that no one can threaten the sovereignty of Greenland and Denmark. He said that there is high officials from Greenland in discussions about how to move forward with democracy and talks and reasonable talks. He also talked about how Greenlanders, he said, how would you feel, Greenland is a peaceful country and that every day you're hearing these threats of your country being seized. He said people were worried. Just yesterday, the ministers had a press conference telling people to be prepared to be at home for 5 days with food, medical, batteries. So he said, imagine, rightfully so, the trauma that people are feeling and feeling scared. But now, he said, whatever happens, the sovereignty of Greenland and Denmark will not be threatened. He also said that, through diplomacy and democracy with NATO, the European Union, and the Arctic, that security has been kept for a very long time. He said he was not aware of the details of the discussions. A reporter asked about minerals, and he also said that, people love the land and protect the land and are very environmentally aware. And if any of that happens, that would be with Greenland's people's voices. Basically, nothing's going to happen without Greenland and without Denmark. He sounded quite hopeful that the negotiations will proceed with democracy. A reporter asked, how can you trust that Trump will not come by force? And he said, we're in a position that we do have to take his word, and hopefully that discussions can proceed. This is also what he said.
What I want to believe in is the frame of that made peace in the world for many years after some horrible times. What we want to believe is we are a close and beloved ally of the Western Alliance, and that's also what we have to believe. This is, as I said, this is about world order. This is about international law. This is about respecting territorial integrity. I believe that the world will not take that turn so drastically. I have to believe that, and I believe the Western Alliance, in a good partnership, can grow to be better.
Thanks, Angel. She'll have more on that press conference on tonight's newscast with Dennis Ward. The city of Yellowknife is hosting an international seminar on Arctic resilience this week, bringing together Nordic ambassadors, Indigenous leaders, and political officials to examine economic sustainability, whole-of-society preparedness, and growing security challenges in the North. Representation from Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Finland, and Norway, and the city of Yellowknife agree. They are carved from the same block of ice, and conversations around their shared challenges will create lasting partnerships. The participants say their challenges go beyond melting ice. There's increased geopolitical competition, leading to more cooperation between the European Nordic countries and Canada on military coordination, Coast Guard operations, and political dialogue. Denmark Ambassador Nikolai Harris says there needs to be a whole-of-society approach to emergency preparedness, and it must include input from civilians and businesses.
In order to have this whole-of-society approach, you also need the individuals So the inhabitants of the Kingdom of Denmark, and therefore we are also communicating with them, coming up with advice on how to be prepared. Water, electricity, medicine, and so on and so forth. And what we see actually now is that the population in the Kingdom of Denmark are responding quite positively to our advice.
Ambassador Harris also welcomed the solidarity from around the world amid the threats of facing Kalaallit-Nunaat, also known as Greenland. First Nation leaders are demanding a meeting with the Manitoba government and hydro officials following a days-long power outage which caused catastrophic water damage in Pimichikamak Cree Nation. Here's what the minister responsible for the Manitoba Hydro had to say regarding what the province is doing.
Well, one of the things that we did was we directed Hydro to do an after-action review. So shortly after the event, we directed Hydro to do that review. That review will allow us insight into what took place here, better understanding of Hydro's response and perhaps how it can be improved, as well as a longer-term perspective on a longer-term solve.
Manitoba Kiiwetinoong Okimikanak Garrison Seti Grand Chief also accusing Hydro of attempting to deflect responsibility by announcing earlier this week firearms damage was found on the line that failed and sent the First Nation into a blackout. A Hydro spokesperson says the cause of the outage remains under investigation, and the purpose of Monday's statement was to remind gun owners not to fire at electrical infrastructure. Still, First Nation leadership questioned the timing of that announcement when so many are displaced right now. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A major Canadian defense company is now Indigenous owned. The sale was completed last November, but a historic event was held on Tuesday at the massive Marshall Land Systems manufacturing facility in Moncton, New Brunswick to mark the deal. CTV's Derek Haggett reports.
An historic event inside a massive Moncton facility to celebrate a major acquisition.
Having our company here in your city, in your province, this is going to lift Canada. First Nations people want this growth.
Indigenous-owned investment firm Flowing River Capital now owns 100% of Marshall Land Systems. The sale complete a few months ago, but some of the 100 employees here got to meet the new owners from Saskatchewan today.
Being able to acquire Marshall Land Systems and being able to build Canadian capacity on Canadian soil, I think really strikes a chord with us.
The British engineering experts build container-like systems for militaries that can be used as command centers, ammunition storage depots, or medical labs. Marshall Land Systems has a $350 million deal with the Canadian Armed Forces and contracts with other NATO countries. The deal comes at a time when the federal government is investing more in the military.
Absolutely. There's been a tremendous focus on increased spending in the defense sector, which, we couldn't have come in at a more perfect time.
Growing a defense capability takes some time, but it delivers huge economic value if you do it right. So we really welcome Canada's increased investment.
The Marshall CEO says at first glance the coming together of the two parties may seem unusual.
But in many ways it represents a new and important wave of investment, one that brings inclusion, long-term thinking, traditionally underrepresented communities into business leadership.
The Moncton facility could play a big part in economic reconciliation. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
A First Nation in BC, along with local allies, united together to repaint a Every Child Matters monument after it was vandalized with racist graffiti early Wednesday morning. According to the Seichot First Nation, located just west of Port Alberni on Vancouver Island, vandals spray painted the Every Child Matters sign with swastikas and other racial slurs at around 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning. This is the third time the monument has been vandalized since September of 2022, when the bridge was first painted orange. The bridge is significant to First Nations people as it serves as the gateway into Seychelles, but it was also the last bridge Indigenous students crossed before being forced to attend the Alberni Residential School, which closed its doors in 1973. On Wednesday afternoon, Port Alberni and Seychelles community members, the RCMP, members of the Canadian Legion, along with residential school survivors, all gathered to repaint the bridge. In a statement from Seychelles, Chief Ken Watts says, "We recognize that there are many that may feel angered or triggered because of these acts of discrimination and hate. We urge all those that may have been impacted by this hate to stand with us and condemn these individuals and those that commit any acts of hate. Let's choose love, not hate." Many Seychelles community members expressed a heartfelt thanks for people uniting and cleaning up the graffiti. The James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan is now one step closer to building a much-needed facility for its people and surrounding communities. A sod turning ceremony was held this week for the James Smith Cree Nation's Wellness and Treatment Center. The center will be the first of its kind for James Smith, and people from surrounding communities could also one day use the facility. The federal government will provide $42.5 million for the center. That announcement was made by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau following the mass stabbing that killed 11 people and injured 18 others. The center will include a detox center, residential treatment space, and outpatient services that will incorporate First Nation values and teachings. In a statement, James Smith Chief Kirby Constant added, "There was a time when our people did not face the struggles we see today. Addictions, homelessness, family instability, and overcrowding were not part of our way of life. These challenges came from what Canada did to our people. Forced onto reserves, stripped of strong family systems, disconnected from land, language, and culture. Our ancestors' ways of raising children together and nurturing them as sacred gifts were disrupted. This wellness center represents healing, accountability, and hope." Construction for the wellness center will begin in March and is set to open in 2028. It's Thursday, and that means Fraser Needham joins us now from Ottawa to tell us about what's ahead on this week's new Nation to Nation. Fraser?
Coming up after the evening news, U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to annex Greenland continues to dominate international headlines. This has a direct effect on the people of Nunavut. We talked to APTN and Iqaluit reporter Justin Hardy about what he is hearing on the ground. MPs return to Parliament next week, and Toronto Metropolitan University professor Pam Palmer is here to talk about what may be on the agenda in terms of Indigenous issues. The Native Americans are getting caught up in ice raids down south. Veteran U.S. journalist Mark Treyant is here to tell us about what is happening. All this and more ahead on Nation to Nation.
Thank you, Fraser. We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you get screened for cancer? The answers are yes or no. You can go to our website at aptnnews.ca/poll to cast your say. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Don't go away. Miigwech for staying with us. Flurries in Charlottetown at 1, Halifax rain in 4. Nain -21, Happy Valley Goose Bay -20. Flurries in Quebec City at -6, Saguenay rain in -8. -4 in Toronto, Ottawa -2. Clear skies in Sudbury at -11, Thunder Bay -24. Thompson -30, sunny in God's Lake at -33. -29 in Gimli, -32 in Barons River, -30 in Regina, -32 in Yorkton. Buffalo Narrows -34, La Ronge -33. -23 in Fort Chipewyan, Fort McMurray -21. -15 in Medicine Hat, Edmonton -17. Sunny in Vancouver at 7, Kamloops -1. Sandspit 3, Smithers -5. -16 in Whitehorse, Old Crow -21. -15 in Wrigley, -11 in Trout Lake. Sunny in Fort McPherson at -10, Sax Harbor -15. -28 in Baker Lake, Chesterfield -27. And Iqaluit -18, Arctic Bay -28. An Anishinaabe woman is using social media to teach others the importance of traditional medicines. Taylor Galvin, also known as Auntie Taylor online, is an environmental scientist from Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, roughly 70 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. A go-getter, she is pursuing a Master of Environmental degree at the University of Manitoba and is one of 2 inaugural fellows in the First Nations Women Transforming Conservation Fellowship. She says she walks in both worlds, using Western and Indigenous sciences to guide her work in land, guardianship, ceremony, and environmental protection. Let's take a look at one of her videos. Joining us now is Taylor Galvin. Taylor, why did you want to start making content online, and why specifically around plants and medicines?
Thank you so much for having me. So it all kind of started about a year ago. I've always had a presence on social media, but it was much different than it is now. And so I wanted to start social media accounts that kind of shared teachings around plants and medicine specifically, because they actually saved my life, to be perfectly honest with you. Like many of our people, I too suffered from addictions for a very, very long time. And it was ultimately the plants and the medicines and the teachings that come with them that actually got me out of that really dark place in my life. And so I started on that journey with the medicines about 4 years ago. I'm coming up on 4 years now on this red road path. And it's been incredibly beautiful. And so if it helped save my life from a very dark place of addictions, I knew that they had the power to also do that to a lot of other people. And so I wanted to share those teachings and get these teachings out there, because not everybody has access to them, right? And so social media is such a huge part of our lives now. So why not use it to our advantage, right? Why don't we get happy, joyful, educational material out there instead of, all that kind of dark stuff that we always kind of get lost in social media.
Thank you for that, Taylor. You have tens of thousands of followers across social media platforms engaging with your content. One of your videos recently surpassed 1 million views. Why do you think this subject is such a hit?
It did. Oh my God, I never would have thought that would have ever happened. And I sat there and I kind of watched it too until it actually hit that mark. But it was a really simple video. It was actually just me and my dog. We were out in the bush, and it's about taking that time of rest, because for us and our teachings as the Anishinaabe people, winter is a time of rest and it's a time of storytelling. But today we live in this world where, rest is almost considered like a weakness, right? It's always chase the hustle and chase the grind. And so I wanted to just, reassure people it's okay to rest. You don't always have to be on the go. You don't always have to be blooming and all these things. Take that time. Our spirits and our hearts and our minds, we need that rest, because we carry a lot of heaviness and we're always go, go, go. And the world that we live in now is kind of backwards, right? Especially as like a student. Now we have to go to school in the wintertime and you get more rest. And so everything's a little bit backwards. And so we kind of get wrapped up a little bit in the wintertime and forget to take care of ourselves. And so the video was just about that.
Definitely some important points there. How do you decide which teachings to share publicly, and do you check with your elders first?
Well, that's a really good question. I get a lot of people who are very much who support the work, but then there's always some folks who are like, oh, you shouldn't share this and things like that. But I'm very cautious and I'm very deliberate on how I share things and what I share. And yes, there's always guidance by elders and the knowledge keepers that we work with. But I'm also very aware that I don't know people's medical histories. Working with the Plant Nation, though a very beautiful path that it is, you also have to walk with care and caution, because not everybody has the same reaction to these medicines. And the last thing that I would ever want to live with is somebody getting hurt from using medicines that they don't properly know how to use. And so one thing you'll recognize on my videos is that I never share preparation methods, ever. I'll share different uses, but only to a certain extent, to what I believe is a little bit more of like common knowledge. So like teachings around the 4 sacred medicines, right? They teach that in schools nowadays, right? And so just bringing it to a different platform, sharing it in a different way, and just educating people on certain uses, but also remembering that this is a big part of learning this way. It's about that relationship building, and it takes time to do that.
We know you have been involved with conservation, water protection, and environmental sciences for a long time. What drew you to this area of expertise and activism?
That's also a very good question. It was the people, honestly. I started school doing anthropology, actually, and then I changed to environmental sciences. I'm now doing a Master's of Environment at the University of Manitoba that focuses on oral storytelling and the protection of sturgeon. And that project, and this is an example of how I got into all this work, that project came from the need of the communities that I've worked with up north. And it's really them that are driving that project. And it's the same with the background in water protection and activism. I got into environment because I was looking for something more in my life. And as I pursued down that path, I found a sense of purpose. I found an identity that I didn't know was there. I always had a really loud voice, but I just never had the right spaces for it until I started doing this work. And then all of a sudden, it was the people in my own community, it was the people of the communities that I work with across Manitoba who were like, you have to do this, you have to keep pushing. You are the voice of our people right now. You know, I don't have a problem challenging people maybe in a political setting or whatever the case may be, as long as it's in the name of protecting our more than human relatives, which is the land and the water and Mother Earth and spirit and ceremony, because we need more people to do that, because that's the one thing that's been excluded for so long in policies and laws and rules and regulations. And so I wanted to make a change in that way, right? So that we can see, and our youth can see, that there's a space for them here at these tables, at these decision-making tables around land management, stewardship, conservation, around water activism. And so I just do it for them, ultimately. It has nothing to do with me, really. It's not my degree, it's not my education, it's for our people and it's for our communities to see themselves there.
Taylor Galvin, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for speaking with us, and please come on the show again.
Yeah, Chimigwech, thank you so much for having me. Mm-hmm.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again. Excellent.